Hello, this is Mickey with Inspired ASMR, and today I'm going to talk to you about my experience with benzodiazepines. If you don't know what those are, they're drugs prescribed for anxiety and insomnia and panic and other anxiety type disorders, and just help in general, help people to relax. My story on benzodiazepines is like thousands of other people. It's not a happy story. It's an absolute hell on earth. And I want to start by saying, if you've never taken benzodiazepines, don't ever take this drug. If you feel that you need to take it because you have no choice, then by all means do what your doctor tells you to do. But in my experience, benzodiazepines have been the worst thing that ever happened to me, and many can attest that it's the worst thing that ever happened to any of them in their whole lives. By far, bar none. Let me start by taking us back into the Christmas spirit just for a moment. I'm not through with Christmas yet, so I want to play this little snow globe just for a moment. I'll set it off to the side because it's kind of loud, and this is ASMR. I'm trying to help you to relax. It won't play for very long. The batteries, or the wind up, I only wound it half a wind. But let's start. Snowman. It's very relaxing. This snowman, snow globe of sorts. My experience in a nutshell from benzodiazepines was that I went through a hard time, and about 2 weeks after that experience, I started having panic attacks. So on the second day of panic attacks, I felt that I needed to go to the ER. So I went there, and they gave me an IV of Lorazepam, and I felt so much better that day. And then the nightmares began. Within 3 days, I was having daily massive anxiety and panic, terrorizing thoughts, intrusive, absolute nightmares, day in and day out, mood swings, roller coaster, depression, anxiety, extreme. I can't explain it. I can't describe it. All I can say, it's hell on earth. If I could describe to you a nightmare that I've had, well, take your worst nightmare and make it real. And that's what my experience was. I only took Lorazepam for 9.5 weeks. And then I joined a support group for benzo withdrawal, and I met thousands of people. Well, I met hundreds of people who are going through the same problems that I'm going through. Imagine being on this drug for 10 or 20 years. I was only on it for 2.5 months, a little over, well, almost 2.5 months. And it turned my world upside down. What a living hell. I lost 45 pounds in the same number of days. And one good thing about this experience is that I became physically healthy again. I had hypertension, which went away. I believe I was pre-diabetic, and that's gone. And I gained a lot of energy over this time, but I would trade this experience. I would never wish this experience. I would never wish Ativan or Lorazepam on my worst enemy. Other benzodiazepines you may have heard of are Xanax and Klonopin, Valium. They're all in the same family of benzodiazepines. Let me read you some of my when I joined this benzodiazepine withdrawal support group, I started texting my thoughts and feelings each day. Let me start off by giving you an idea of what I was going through during this horrible, hellish experience, the worst experience of my life. I can tell you that even now, I've been off the Ativan for about 140 days, somewhere in there. So it's going on not quite 5 months. And let me read some of what I was going through when I joined this group. My first day in the group was August 28th, so I started the Benzo on around June 15th, and I only averaged about 0.5 milligrams, between 0.5 milligrams and 1 milligram per day. That's what my average was. I was only taking it because that's what was prescribed to me. I never abused it. I never took more than, I took 1.5 milligrams in a day, I think twice. And every other day it was usually either half a pill, which is 0.5, or sometimes I would take 2 pills in a day, or 2 halves, 1 pill. And that was only to maintain my sanity, until I realized that it was the Ativan that was ripping my sanity away. August 28th, here's what I said when I joined this group. Benzo brain fog, yay! Exclamation point. Also on that day I wrote, yesterday was great. Of course I thought maybe I'm doing better. Maybe I'm finally getting over all this and there's a light at the end of this tunnel. Today I woke up with a little anxiety and then brain fog set in for 8 hours. I just don't interact with anyone outside of an occasional head nod or an uh-huh. Meanwhile, for most of the day I've got this crazy, deep, zombie depression anxiety state. I can't describe it. What I finally realized was that this is a chemically induced anxiety and depression, and it's so extreme you can't imagine. It's just an absolute nightmare. Your worst fears, you believe that your worst fears are going to come true. I mean, it's just absolutely miserable. I can't explain it. Later that day I wrote, I've got a bit more to contribute today in addition to my last post. Does anyone have certain times of the day that usually feel worse or better? I feel it's peculiar that it happens like this for me, and I'm wondering if anyone knows why. And this was happening to me. And I've read about it too. This is a common thing for people who have depression and anxiety, especially depression. Sometimes they have depression that occurs at certain times of the day, that it worsens, goes up and down, depending on the time of day. Let's see. Let's go to another post here. This was the next day, August 29th. I wrote myself a letter today. After yesterday's absolute hell, I have to remind myself that I must learn and improve from this experience. Otherwise, how can others be blessed with what we have all experienced? And how will we ever make headway with big pharma and medical community about the reality of these Satan benzos? Here's my letter. Dear Mickey, don't forget how much you pleaded with God to save you from this nightmare yesterday. Don't you ever forget how bad it is. It really is when you're in that hell. It is so bad you remind us to put up defense mechanisms just to survive. Trust me, it was bad enough that you would do anything to escape it. And don't you ever, ever, ever forget how bad this is, so that when God rescues you from it, you might actually get your life together again and learn from this so that you can bless others with your experience. I love you, Mickey. Sincerely, Mickey. The next day, I wrote, I accidentally posted some of my benzo horrors on my main Facebook today, my main page, by mistake, and one of my friends responded within a couple of minutes. Thank God I quickly deleted it. Ugh. And that made my anxiety go off the charts. Same day, I wonder how many conditions a psychologist and a physician would diagnose us with, not realizing that we are going through withdrawal from benzo. Major depression, panic disorder, general anxiety disorder, hypothyroidism, fibromyalgia, PTSD, bipolar. That's what this really does to a person. I am so eager to someday get out of this hell. Also, that same day, somebody please tell me that the anxiety goes away. I imagine a lot of us are all thinking that it never will, right? Somebody please tell me that it does. I've never really had anxiety like this before, and I know it has to be the withdrawal, but my mind is playing games with me and telling me I'll never get better. Whew, that was a hard day. August 31st. Praying for all who suffer this terrible affliction. I've been praying very hard for God to get me through this, and I know from growing up being a Christian that these benzos are not what God intended for us. Whew. I am not suicidal, and I would not take my own life, but that doesn't change the fact that sometimes many of us feel like dying just to end the pain. September 5th. If I had to self-diagnose from my pre-benzo life, I'd say I probably had one bout of depression that lasted a few days. Then it was just sadness after that for a month. I think I'm describing my divorce when I talk about this here, which was about 13 years ago. As for anxiety, I've always had a low level of it. I've always found it fairly easy to live with. Honestly, I never took medications for anything, and I've been fine. But this benzo nightmare is absolutely unbearable. What a freaking mess. I should have never went to the ER. Never, never, never. Next. September 6th. Anyone ever wish you could just be yourself again? I've lost 40 pounds in the last 3 months. People say I look good because I actually had about that much weight to lose anyway. But I'm concerned I'm going to keep losing weight, and I'll just have to start eating a lot more. Today I have brain fog, feeling out of it, just tired of it all. I haven't laughed like I used to in months, and I just don't really smile anymore or find anything truly interesting or fun. I'm concerned that all my family and friends are just worn out from me not being who I once was, and it's really sad. I got a lot of comments from that one. Let's see. Just curious, how many of you drink alcohol to help you through benzo withdrawal? Well, I got a lot of comments from that one. Do not drink alcohol. Do not drink. Do not drink. Ever. Before, during, or after benzos, do not drink alcohol. It is the absolute worst thing you can do. It will send you into a spiraling nightmare down the rabbit hole and never to come out again for weeks and even months. Let me see. Let's find another one here. I asked my dad to ask his family doctor about anything he could provide to help me through this, and I wanted to share any wisdom he might have. He's a really health-conscious, holistic, naturopathic-minded type doctor. What he said was, benzos are not addictive. People don't get dependent on them, but when you quit, it may screw up with your head for a little while. But it will be fine. Well, okay. He scratched the surface with that one. That's all I can say about that. September 12th. Is there anyone here who's completely better? Anyone? I need to hear some stories about people who are completely better. Or are we all to be prepared to reach only 75 to 90% recovery for the rest of our lives? I hope someone has the answer. Please help. And there's a whole lot more. I basically just scratched the surface of this experience, and I want to make another video, so I plan on making another one. So everyone hang in there, and I will try to make a second video, because I haven't even begun to describe the absolute 100% hell. And have a good night, and I will talk to you later.